Okay, so if you're trying to balance full-time studies with maybe a job and you're trying to see your friends and you're trying to look after your health and you're trying to sleep 8 hours a night and you're trying to do all these different things, then as a student, it can get pretty overwhelming. But the solution to that is creating systems for the things in your life. I've spent the last few years of my engineering studies learning how to get great academic success while still having time to exercise, while still having time to see friends, and while still having time to just live life. And the big part behind this, the big reason for this, is my ability to create systems for the things in my life. So in this video, we're going to talk about what systemizing your life actually means, so you can build the student life that you love, where you have time to get your work done and then have time to go to the gym and have time to spend time with friends and do really whatever you want to do as a student. So let's first talk about what systemizing your life really looks like and what it really means. So most people, they operate on feelings. If they feel motivated to do something, then they will do that thing. And if they don't feel motivated or they don't feel like doing that thing, then they probably won't do that thing. And so their feelings are what leads to results. And so systemizing your life is basically crossing out the need for these feelings. Systems are basically a workaround. So even if you aren't feeling like it, you can still produce results. And to be clear here, I'm not trying to talk down on motivation or whatever you're feeling like in the moment, because to be honest, motivation is really nice. It is very nice to want to do the work, to feel like doing the work. However, it's not always going to be there, so you can't rely on it. So that's why we build systems. It's to produce the result even when the motivation isn't there. And this is so powerful, right? Because those systems create consistency, and that consistency then produces results, right? Consistency is the key here. Consistency is what gives you results long term. And so systems are just a tool which allow us to build consistency, which then gets us the results that we want. Now, before we go further into systems, I just want to say that some people don't operate just out of feelings and motivation, right? Some people take it one step further and they will make plans or they'll set intentions, right? I talk a lot about this in my video about timetabling. So some people will like plan to say, hey, I will work out at 3 p.m. tomorrow, or they will do their assignment at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And this is good. This is a start. But what if you don't have the motivation when that time comes? What if we don't feel like it when that time comes? What if we don't have motivation when that time comes, right? And so there is still the need for a system there. Even though you've built a plan, even though you've had the intention, this is good, right? This right here, when you're setting plans and intentions, this is good. But there's still a need for systems, there's still a need for feelings, because sometimes you won't feel like working out at 3 p.m. when the time comes. And sometimes you won't feel like doing that assignment at 6 p.m. when the time comes. And so we still want to be able to work around feelings and motivation. And so that means that if we want the result no matter what, systems are still required, because systems are what produces that workaround. Systems will account for multiple things. They account for the worst case, and then they allow us to build consistency, which then produces the results. Okay, so how do we actually build the systems then that will produce the result that we want? Well, like we said earlier, we're trying to work around the need for feelings and motivation. We're trying to reduce that friction. We want it to be easy to do the work, even if you're not feeling like it, even if you're tired, even if you're in a bad environment. So the best example of this is the gym. In the gym, you have a split. A split is like how often you work out, what muscles you're working out. It's a full plan of your exercising. It's basically a workout plan. And that is a system. That's a system of what you're doing, when you're doing it, how often you're doing it. It answers all of the questions. And because it answers all the questions, it's a lot easier to go. If you have some goal physique in mind, you will not meet your goal by just going to the gym randomly, doing whatever exercises you want, whatever day you want, whatever it is. It won't happen. You need to build a system or a split which will get you towards your goal. Okay, so now if we try to bring that back to studying, we're trying to reduce friction, we're trying to reduce the need for motivation, reduce the need for what we're feeling like, and develop a system that allows us to work around that. So how do we do that? Well, we first need to figure out what is happening that is making execution of the task hard. And then we develop a solution for that, and then we can iterate it, and eventually we have a system. So for example, maybe you really struggle to do work at home in the evenings, okay? It's busy, there's people around, it's dinner time, you wanna spend time with your family, and it's hard to focus, and you have all this other stuff going on. And so it's very difficult for you to sit down and do the work. And so you always try, you get home in the evening and you try to do this work, but you just can't. You might even be setting the intention to at 6 p.m. you're always going to do this assignment, like we talked about earlier with people making plans. But the problem isn't that you have not set that intention, because you have set that intention. The problem is you either don't feel like working because there's other stuff going on in your house, or you can't focus on working because there's other stuff going on in your house. And that is the issue here. It's not that you haven't set the intention or you haven't planned to do the work. It's that you don't feel like it, or it's difficult because of distractions. And so we need to think of a solution for that. Clearly, studying at home at this time is no good, okay? So we need to walk through different options. Maybe you need to get up early in the morning to study, but maybe you can't because you have some practice in the evenings, and so you can't get to bed early enough in order to get up early enough to study. And so then we need to continue and iterate and look for other solutions. Maybe instead of coming home and trying to work at home, maybe you need to stay at school for an extra 2 hours and get the work done there. Or maybe you need to go to a coffee shop or cafe and go work there. You need to iterate through possible solutions and figure out what exactly is going to work for you and what exactly is going to get you the result. So personal example for me is that I always like to get some work done in the mornings on the weekends, okay? But by the time I had done my morning routine, done all this stuff, there's already a lot of stuff going on around the house. And so I couldn't get as much work done because of the other things going on that were taking my attention. So my solution was I got up, I skipped my morning routine, and I would literally work right away. I would be working within 5 minutes of waking up. And because I was up early, nobody else was up, I could just sit down and focus. I don't get distracted by other things because there's no other things to be distracted by. Nobody's messaging me. Nobody's upstairs doing something else. I have this time to myself where I can get work done. And so, of course, this was the time when I got my best work done because there's nothing else that could distract me. I tried different options, but I adjusted my timetable to find something that worked for me and to build a system that worked. Now, to be transparent, I don't do that anymore. I don't wake up and work within 5 minutes, but it was a very effective solution at the time in order for me to get the result that I wanted, which was uninterrupted quality work. Now, of course, there's some sacrifice there. For example, I had to go to bed at 10 p.m. Some people might find that uncomfortable. And also in the morning, it would be nice to wake up and eat breakfast and brush my teeth and wash my face and go outside and journal and meditate and do all these nice things. But those were getting in the way. And so I made the sacrifice. I pushed all those habits that I wanted to do right when I woke up to immediately after my first work block. But because of that, I was able to get good work done, right? It's a trade-off. It's the negatives of having to push my morning routine back versus the negatives of not making progress towards my goals. Like, they're both negative, but which one is more negative? I would rather have the slight discomfort of not doing my morning routine right away versus the negatives of unfocused work leading to longer work time, less progress towards goals, less time for friends, less time for the gym, all because of the less productive work in the morning. There's a big difference between the two. And so you got to make a decision. Do you want to sacrifice a little bit of comfort in the morning, or do you want to sacrifice your goals, right? I think the decision was pretty clear to me at the time. You just make that trade-off. And so you should consider that too. Are there drawbacks of sleeping at 9:30, 10 p.m.? Yes, there are. Of course, there's drawbacks to everything. But are those drawbacks worth the ability to get up early, get good quality work done in less time, therefore making more progress towards your goals and opening up more time to spend with friends and for exercise? That seems like a pretty obvious trade-off. So yes, building systems is what will get you towards your results. And yes, it does come at a cost of that discomfort, but is that discomfort worth the result for you? That's the question you got to answer. Now, if you're this far in the video, this will get you 90% there. This is going to get you 90% of your results. But there's one thing that you can do to really elevate your systems and to operate at a very, very high level, and that is looking at fixing your habits. You'll find that as you develop systems, they might not always be optimal. It might not always be ideal. It's probably a lot better than where you were at before, but it's probably not the best case scenario. And so because of that, it's going to be worth looking back at your systems over time in order to analyze them and to see, hey, where can this be improved? Where can this be optimized? For example, maybe you have a problem that when you get home, you're too tired to study. And so your solution is you've built this into your system where before you study, you take a 30-minute nap. Well, that's good, right? That enables you to get the work done after because now you have the energy since you slept. But naps take time. And so it's kind of temporary and it's not an ideal solution. Is there habits that we can build instead that will fix that? Well, yes, maybe you can improve your sleep habits, right? Another example would be focus. Maybe you have struggled focusing, and so you implement these focus techniques in order to allow yourself to focus. And this is good, but again, it's temporary and it's not ideal to always have to rely on these focus techniques. So instead of trying to use all these focus tricks, what if we instead try to build habits to improve our focus, right? And what habit would this be? Well, the habit to improve your focus is meditation, because meditation trains presence, and presence is the ability to focus on something. And so instead of always having to rely on these tricks or techniques to focus, you just can focus better. So all those focus techniques can be a part of your system, but it's often not optimal, and it should be treated as a temporary solution as you develop the more optimal solution and the more optimal system. So fixing your habits will tend to simplify and optimize your systems. And that's great because the systems are what makes executing tasks easier. And so if your system is better, executing the task is going to be easier too. So yes, once you've developed your systems, it's always good to come back on them, optimize them, improve your habits, because those will improve your systems, which will then improve whatever your system was solving. Okay, so with that, I hope you can understand the importance of building systems and how they can help you improve in all aspects of your student life so you can make progress towards your goals in academics while still being able to exercise, while still being able to see your friends and do all the other things that you want to as a student. So I hope this video has helped you.